I will build a duplex to live with my parents, and you will have to help me out with $100,000.
You don't have any veto power. What belongs to my daughter-in-law is ours, isn't it? My husband and in-laws have said so, and have tried to build a house on the land I inherited, but I will never let that happen. I told them a fact, but I'm already single. My name's Sarah, and I'm a 34 years old office worker. After graduating from college, I got a job at a securities company and worked hard. I enjoyed my work because the more I did it, the more result I got. So I just spent my days focusing on work, and I found myself being entrusted with a good position. I was making a lot of money and had a lot of savings now. I was satisfied with my life and thought I was having a very fulfilling time. However, I suddenly realized that all my friends around me were getting married and having children. I felt like I was being left behind, seeing their families happily getting along. And my parents have been asking me a lot about my recent tendencies.
Is there anyone out there who is good enough for you? I think it's great that you work so hard at your job and that you are able to get results. But there is also something to be said about being happy as a woman.
Yes, I get it.
Sarah, I'm serious.
If I could get married so easily, I wouldn't have a hard time.
Well, that's true.
My father started talking to me about marriage whenever we saw each other. One day, when he was not around, I asked my mother about it. Why is Dad rushing me to get married lately? You know, his health hasn't been so good lately. Huh? Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. He is worried about you because he has come to believe that he could die at any moment. Because as a father, he wants his child to be happy. I guess he also wants to see you as a bride or see his grandchildren. I see. I was surprised because I didn't know my father had such circumstances. And I strongly wanted to get married and show my father and mother how happy I am. However, as I had been devoting myself to my work without much attention to my love life, I didn't know how to find new encounters. Where do people find their partners? When I was wondering this, a friend of mine suggested I attend a blind date party. I had never been on a blind date before, but I thought it would be an experience and decided to attend. It seemed like I would never meet anyone if I didn't make an active move like that. It was my first time attending a blind date party, but it was more fun than I had expected. I was worried that it would be more of a meeting place for men and women, and that the atmosphere among the women might be a bit tense. But it was more like a drinking party, and I was able to enjoy talking with both men and women. The men and women were all very kind and nice, and the conversation was lively no matter who was next to whom. Then, we all exchanged contact information with each other, and one of the men contacted me individually. That was Jason. Jason was 29 years old, 5 years younger than me. I think he was the youngest of all the participants at the party. He was also good looking and was very popular among the other women. I was surprised when he contacted me, but I was even more surprised when I saw the content of his message. He told me that he had enjoyed talking with me so much that he wanted to meet me alone this time. I didn't expect such an invitation from him, but I was very happy, and I immediately agreed to meet with him. We had a great time, and our conversation was very enjoyable. After a few more dates, he asked me to go out with him, and that he thinks about marrying me later. We then decided to start dating. Our relationship was fine, and in no time at all, 6 months had passed. Then one day, Jason said he had something important to discuss and invited me out to dinner. I suddenly became concerned that it might be a breakup. I wondered if I had made him feel uncomfortable or bored because of the age difference between us. I was very scared, but I gathered up my courage and went to the restaurant where I was to meet him. And I was having dinner with him anyway, but I was not in the mood. The meal seems to be the same as before, but I still hadn't heard what the important thing was. Will he talk about a breakup after this meal? Is this the last supper we will take together? If so, I forgot to taste it. I was thinking about that and didn't realize I was being called by name.
Sarah, are you listening?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm about to tell you something important, so please listen to me.
I knew he was about to tell me something important, and I braced myself. Then he said,
Sarah, will you marry me? Let's have a life together from now on.
For a moment, I did not understand what he was saying. Then finally, after some delay, I understood it in my head. What? Marriage? Seeing my surprise, he anxiously asked me if I would reject. No. I was just a little surprised. I took a deep breath, looked Jason straight in the eye, and replied, I'm very happy to be together with you. Jason looked very happy when I accepted his proposal. I couldn't stop smiling. I had not expected a marriage proposal in such a short period of 6 months of our relationship. So I thought he was completely on the break track. And since I was in such a state, the proposal made me many times happier. Then we reported our marriage to each other's parents. My father and mother were very happy and congratulated us many times. After the wedding greetings and the meeting of both families, we were successfully married. Many of my friends and colleagues congratulated us at the wedding, and I felt my happiness growing. Then we went on our honeymoon and started our life as husband and wife. My honeymoon with my husband was very happy. I was surprised at how happy I was just to be with the person I loved all the time.
Sarah, welcome home. Dinner is ready.
Oh, thank you. My husband always finishes work earlier than me and arrives home before me, and he prepares dinner for me. I used to prepare dinner by myself after coming home from work after a long day of work, and I'm extremely grateful to him for doing that. Thanks to my husband's hard work, I'm able to focus even more on my work. As I ate my husband's home-cooked meals, I felt deeply happy that I had married him. I was able to fulfill one of my filial piety by showing my father how I got to be a bride, and living with my partner was definitely the happiest time of my life. However, I would later come to regret that this marriage was a mistake. The first signs of this began to appear about 6 months after our marriage. One day, I looked at the bank book of our couple's shared account, and there was a withdrawal that I didn't remember. For some reason, $500 had been deducted from our shared account. We put a little money into this account every month, but I had never made a single withdrawal. So my husband was the only one. I was a little worried and asked my husband about it. I don't think it's a good idea to withdraw money without permission. And I don't think it's a good idea to keep quiet about it to your partner. Jason, what did you do with this money? My husband was a little upset when I showed him the bank book.
That's because, well, actually, it seems that Grandpa broke his arm. So I gave him money for his hospitalization and treatment on short notice.
Oh, really?
But I didn't have any money in my account, so I hurriedly took money out of the shared account.
I see.
I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but I was going to put it back when I got paid.
I see. That's all right then. But I still wish you would have talked to me about it beforehand or something.
I'm sorry. I will be careful next time,
he said and apologized repeatedly. So I decided to forgive him for the time being. However, after that, My husband regularly withdrew money from the shared account without my permission. Each time I asked him what he used the money for, he gave me a reasonable excuse, but I gradually became suspicious of him. Then, I couldn't stand it any longer and went a little hard on my husband. "Hey, you're spending too much money on your own, don't you think? And Jason, you don't put money into the shared account at all anymore. I want you to explain to me what's going on, because if you don't, I won't be able to trust you anymore." When I said this angrily, my husband started to get upset.
I'm using the money for our family. The money in our shared account is ours to begin with. So what's wrong with me spending it?
"I'm not saying you shouldn't spend it. I'm saying don't spend it on your own."
I told you, I'm using it to pay for Grandpa's medical bills.
"Why are you? His grandson paying for it. Isn't it supposed to be paid for by your mother or father?"
Well, that's...
"Don't try to cover it up with a lie." When I said that, my husband was driven into a corner and suddenly said something outrageous.
Then, do you want a divorce?
"What? Divorce?"
If you doubt me that much, it will be difficult to continue our marriage.
"Wait a minute. I'm not thinking that much about divorce."
Then be a little nicer to me. I'm spending the money in our shared account, and I'm sorry for that too.
Okay. I was still in love with my husband at this time, and I didn't want to get a divorce because then I wouldn't be able to show my parents their grandchildren's faces. However, I would later regret that I should have divorced him quickly at that time. Since then, my husband has become a little cold toward me. He used to prepare dinner for me, but he stopped doing housework. And lately, when I come home, more often than ever, my in-laws are there. "Molly and Ronald, what is going on with you?" "I'm here to see my son. Is it a bad thing?"
Sarah, how can you walk till late while we are here? Did you not want to see us?
"No, it's not like that."
She's a workaholic. She's also a tightwad when it comes to money. Well, that's an up description.
My in-laws laughing at me and making fun of me. I was fed up with the situation where I came home from work and my in-laws were there. This would still be better if I worked more overtime and came home just before the last train. After that, my in-laws would come over to my house and my husband would have a friendly chat with them. I also thought it was kind of weird, because as soon as I come home from work, they will leave as if this is a sign.
My mom and dad would leave quickly because you always looked so uncomfortable.
I was shocked when he really said something like that to me. Was it my fault? I'm just working hard. Why should I be told such a thing? I was starting to get pretty stressed out over my husband's attitude and my in-laws' attitude. Besides, while I was working so hard, my husband was having a nice conversation at home with his parents, who came home before me. Just thinking about that made me feel really angry. Furthermore, since I'm currently paying for all of our living expenses, I'm also responsible for the utilities and food that my in-laws spend when they are at our home relaxing on their own. There were many things that I didn't agree with, and I was beginning to wonder if I should continue living this marriage life. Then, an event occurred that gnawed at my heart. It was the death of my father. My father suddenly collapsed from acute heart failure and passed away. It was so sudden that my mind went blank. Even when I saw him in the hospital with a white cloth over his face, I still couldn't believe that he had passed away. I couldn't show him his grandchildren, and my mother and I were saddened. I had heard that he had been in good condition recently, even though his health had been getting worse. Then, I was suddenly told that he had passed away, and my emotions were not able to catch up. But despite of my grief, I knew that I had to make sure my father's funeral was held properly. I hurriedly made arrangements in preparation for the funeral and somehow managed to hold my father's funeral without incident. Then, afterward, the lawyer explained to me about the inheritance. He told me that my father had made a will in preparation for the eventuality of his death when he became ill. In his will, my father left me and my mother a share of his savings, and I was to inherit the land of my parents' house. I wasn't that concerned about the inheritance, but my husband and in-laws, not me, were extremely agitated about the inheritance.
Sarah, is it true that you inherited the land?
Yes, that's right.
That's great. Then let's build a house.
Why?
Because you inherited the land. Then let's tear down your stale parents' house and build a new one. And we'll make it a duplex and live with my mom and dad.
Wait, what are you talking about? I'm not going to do that. The land is mine, but my mother still lives in the house.
Why don't you just say something nice and ask her to move somewhere else?
Don't be silly. There's no way I could do such a terrible thing.
What the hell? We are a couple. You could at least listen to me a little bit.
Every single time you ask me for something, it's too much.
I'm not asking you to do anything unreasonable. Living with my parents and building a new house, those are two things I'm asking for. Nothing too hard.
I'm saying that's unreasonable. I didn't think my husband could be this difficult to talk to. But I would never let him build a house. I had thought of various countermeasures, but my husband was tougher than I had expected. He brought his parents to our house every day and told me that he was going to build a two-family house with the three of them. They also showed me materials they had obtained from a real estate agent and seems to be steadily preparing to build a house. Then, perhaps out of frustration, his attitude toward me became stricter and stricter.
Come on, we are asking you to build a house so many times. Just get on with it and start getting the house ready to be built.
You are too slow to act.
No, I don't approve.
I don't care what you approve or disapprove of. You married Jason. You do what he says.
It's really hard for me to keep listening to them yell at me like this when I come home tired from work. But I don't leave it at that. I'm secretly making preparations. Then one day, my husband and in-laws must have gotten impatient because they tried to subdue me by raising their voices and looking even scarier than usual.
I'm going to build a two-family house to live with my parents, and I want you to help me with $100,000.
You don't have any veto power.
We are already on the verge of moving forward with a real estate agent.
What belongs to my daughter-in-law is ours, isn't it?
My husband and in-laws have said so, and have tried to build a house on the land I inherited. But I will never let that happen. I told them a fact, but I'm already single.
What are you talking about?
My in-laws are upset by my statement. Jason, have you forgotten that you stuck divorce papers in my face? You have been shoving filled out divorce papers in my face lately when things don't go your way. I have filed them. I'm sick of you threatening to build a house on my inherited land. So I let you become strangers to me. Then the land will no longer be any of your business.
Bullshit. I don't accept that.
That's right. That divorce is null and void.
I will sue you for divorcing without permission.
The in-laws were furious with me, but I couldn't lose. I'm sorry, but divorce is final because Jason, you're having an affair.
Me? What are you talking about?
You don't have to be so defensive. I had the credit agency investigate, and I got a bunch of pictures of you bringing a woman into my house during the day. I also found out that you quit your job without my knowledge. No wonder you've been spending all the money on the shared account. but I'm going to make you pay for it. I'm going to make sure you pay alimony for that affair." My husband and my in-laws became pale and lost their words. "For now, can you just pack up your stuff and leave? This apartment is rented in my name. If you continue to stay here, I will call the police."
Wait a minute, police?
From my point of view, it's more disturbing to have strangers in my house. I said that and took my phone and made it easy to understand. "Let's see, it was 911. I said. Then my husband and in-laws rushed out of the house. I immediately locked the door. After that, I filed a claim for alimony against my husband and the adulterer through a lawyer. I also canceled the apartment I was living in with my husband, and I returned to my parents' house and started living with my mother. Then, I rebuilt my parents' house with the inheritance I received from my father and the money I had saved. The house was made barrier-free so that it would be easy for my mother to live in even if she became old and her legs and hips deteriorated. And the other rooms were also made new and comfortable for her. My mother was very happy with the new house, and I was also happy to see her like that. By the way, my ex-husband and in-laws are now spending their days in a state of isolation, not being taken seriously by anyone around them. They had been bragging to the neighbors that they were going to build a new two-family house, but as a result, they were abandoned by me. There was no more talk about the new house. And then, word spread about my ex-husband's infidelity, so the neighbors are giving them the cold shoulder. Furthermore, my ex-husband has already quit his job, so my in-laws are now paying the alimony that my ex-husband has to pay every month on his behalf, while supporting him who doesn't work. I feel sorry for them, but I also feel good about it, because they were the ones who have directly caused me pain. I'm going to take their example as a lesson to me, and try to live my life honestly, and find happiness in an independent state. It's tricky, because it's hard to tell the difference between truly nice people and people who pretend to be nice at first before they approach you and reveal their true nature. I thought it was wonderful that Sarah was resolute in talking back to her in-laws. It's also great that she hired a project agency to uncover her husband's infidelity. Now that you were able to cut off the troublesome people, I hope you can meet a wonderful man this time and have a new happy marriage. I wish Sarah all the best for the rest of her life and all the happiness in the world."
My husband abandoned me when I got pregnant at the age of 45 because he thinks my baby will be stupid.
How can I raise a child now after all this time?
My husband then served me with divorce papers. 18 years passed since then, in the blink of an eye. I had come to the university hospital for an examination, and my ex-husband, whom I met again by chance, made fun of me.
It's too sad for a single lady to be admitted to the hospital. Besides, your daughter is probably jobless anyway.
Then my daughter showed up. "Oh, this guy. You really look like you have a bad personality." "My name is Jennifer. I'm a 45-year-old office worker. My father died of illness when I was very young, and I grew up in a single-parent home with my mother. My mother worked hard as an office worker to support us, and I wanted to repay her by studying hard. I got to know that I could get a scholarship if my grades were good enough. I studied hard and went on to high school and college while receiving scholarships. My mother said, "Jennifer's hard work has reduced my workload tremendously and has helped me a lot." I was happy to hear that. I wanted to repay her for raising me, so I worked hard at job hunting and got a job at a big company. I worked hard and took my mother on trips and to fancy restaurants. While making many memories with my mother, I put even more effort into my work. I wanted to do more and more to show my filial piety. I spent my time thinking this way, and before I knew it, I was over 30 years old. People around me were getting married, having children, and having families of their own. But I remained single, probably because I was too devoted to my work. I wish someone good would come along for Jennifer. I was flabbergasted when my mother said that. Of course, I had always tried my best to be filial to my mother. But filial piety also includes reassuring my mother. That means getting married and showing her the faces of her grandchildren. I was already 33 years old at the time, so it was time for me to find a partner. In this way, I suddenly became impatient and started to look for love. Then, a friend invited me on a blind date, and that is when I met Nico, who would later become my husband. Nico was 4 years younger than me, and 29 years old at the time. He was an office worker, and gave me the impression that he was a fresh, good-looking man. He talked to me actively, and he wanted to exchange contact information with me. I was older than him, and there were younger and prettier girls, so I wondered why he wanted to chat with me. But I thought it would be better to have many opportunities for romance in order to get married, so we exchanged contact information. Soon after, he asked me out on a date. With half a doubt in my mind, I agreed to the date, and we went out to have fun. Indeed, he was very kind and a gentleman. When I asked him why he asked me out on a date, he shyly told me that he prefers older women.
And I thought Jennifer must be a nice person, because you're a kind person who works hard at your job, and you're also nice to your mother.
It made me happy to hear him compliment me that way, and I was attracted to him. Not long after that, we started dating, and we got married 2 years later. My mother was very happy to hear that I was getting married, and she cried when she saw me as a bride at the wedding. I was happy that I could do one more thing for my filial piety. I was also happy that I could marry the man I loved so much. I think I experienced the greatest happiness in my life. From then on, my husband and I lived a happy newlywed life. We both wanted to have children, and because of my age, we tried really hard. However, we were unable to have children as we had hoped. 3 years passed quickly without a child. I was already 38 years old, and it might be my last chance to have a child. While I was thinking about this, my mother passed away before I could get pregnant. My mother had been getting sicker and sicker for a while, and had been visiting the hospital. But somewhere along the way, I thought she was still going to be okay. Then she suddenly passed away, and I couldn't catch up with my emotions. I had grown up in a single-parent household, so my mother was a very important person in my life. Thanks to my mother, I had been able to live happily until now. I was saddened by the loss of my beloved mother. I wanted to show her the face of her grandchild. I was also sad that I could not achieve the dream. My husband gently took care of me, encouraging me and waiting for me to get better. I was always emotionally unstable at that time, so I think I was causing him a lot of trouble. Over the next year or two, I gradually recovered mentally. In the meantime, I was still trying to get pregnant, but I still couldn't have children. Then, I decided to give up since I was already 40 years old, and my husband and I decided to live as a couple. After that, I spent my days working and spending my daily life with my husband. Although the days continue to be the same as before, I still enjoy the happiness of having a partner. I did not doubt that we would continue to live to old age together. But then, my life suddenly changed abruptly.
It seems you are pregnant. Congratulations.
At the hospital where I visited, because I had been feeling unwell, I was unexpectedly told that I was pregnant. I was so surprised that I asked the doctor several times, "Are you sure?" I was 45 years old at the time.
It's true. I'm sure of it.
The doctor said with a smile. I never thought I could get pregnant at my age. I went home, still in disbelief. I told my husband when he came home from work that I was pregnant. "Don't be surprised to hear that."
Why are you grinning like that?
"I'm pregnant." My husband looked very surprised. No wonder. Even I was really surprised. But his surprise did not lead to joy like mine.
Why would you get pregnant? Didn't you say that we were going to live alone as a couple?
Well, yes, but that was only because I had given up on getting pregnant.
You didn't use contraception, did you?
Of course I didn't. Why go to the trouble paying for pills?
Seriously?
I was puzzled by my husband's reaction. You weren't wearing a contraceptive either.
I thought you were on birth control because you said you weren't going to have any more children.
No. Aren't you happy? I just got pregnant with your child.
I can't raise a child now after all this time, and a baby born from an old woman would become only stupid. I thought I could hold out a little longer, but it's time to move on.
That's when my husband thrust divorce papers in my face. Wait, what does this mean? Why are divorce papers in the drawer?
I've been thinking about divorcing you for a long time, because you're not worth anything as a woman anymore. And if you tell me you are having a baby, it's going to be a real pain in the ass. You are going to have morning sickness, and you're going to neglect your housework. And if you have a baby, I will be woken up crying at night, and all sorts of other troublesome things. There is no need for that now. In the first place, I was only with you because I didn't have anything bothersome.
What do you mean?
First of all, you don't have a father. When you got married, meeting the other person's father is the most tiring part. If it's only the mother, you're not that nervous, but you don't want to meet the father if possible. It's a good thing you're from a single mother family, because I could get married without that kind of hassle. The other thing is that you work for a good company. I was grateful that you were making good money and that I could afford to be extravagant. But I'm getting tired of it, and I'm leaving you. You need to pack your bags and leave as soon as possible.
Whatever that is, it's just too much. My husband, who I thought was a kind and good man, is the worst person I've ever met. Fine, let's get a divorce. My love for my husband has cooled off in a flash. I could never raise a child with such a man. I immediately signed the divorce papers.
I won't pay child support.
My husband said with a pointed look on his face. He is a selfish person to the end of the line. Okay, but no property division then.
I don't need that. I'm making a good living on my own.
My husband said with a triumphant look on his face. I didn't want to receive child support from such a lousy man, and I didn't want to give him the money I had earned. I was more than happy to accept his terms. I quickly packed my bags and left the house. Then I went to a real estate agent and rented an apartment near my office. Since I lived within walking distance of the office, I was able to work until just before the birth without putting too much strain on my body by commuting. Then I went on maternity leave and gave birth without incident. The baby was a healthy girl. She was so cute that I thought she was an angel, and I made up my mind to protect and take good care of her for the rest of my life. I worked hard to support our life together, including using a daycare center, and gave my daughter a lot of love. Even though I was raised by a single mother, I was very happy, so I was sure that I could make my daughter happy too. I never doubted that. I worked hard as a single mother to protect my life with my daughter. 18 years passed in the blink of an eye. My daughter has grown up to be a very nice girl. She's now a senior in high school and has already been recommended for college. She is very bright and can study better than I can, so I'm looking forward to her future. Then one day, I met someone I never thought I would meet again. It was when I came to the university hospital for a physical examination.
Huh? No way, Jennifer?
A man passed me in the hallway of the hospital, and when I looked over, I saw my ex-husband, Nico. My ex-husband is grinning when he sees me in my hospital gown.
You're sick. It's so tragic.
I had come to the university hospital for a checkup, and my ex-husband, who happened to see me again, made fun of me thinking I'm admitted to the hospital.
So sad to see your single old lady in the hospital.
I was so disgusted by my ex-husband continuing to behave so terribly. I'm just here for a checkup.
Oh yeah, well whatever. I'm sure I'm happier than you are now. I got remarried right after our divorce to a beautiful woman, 15 years younger than me. We have a child now, and we have a happy family. When I go to my son's class, people are always talking about how beautiful his mother is. As for husband, I'm so proud. Our son is a senior in high school, and it's time to take the college entrance exam, and I'm sure he will get into a good college.
I see. My ex-husband is bragging about himself even though I didn't ask him.
It's a good thing I left you. If I had stayed married to you, I would have been like, who is that old lady? And your daughter is jobless anyway. Kids born at an old age are probably not smart enough.
Unbelievable. I can allow you to make fun of me, but I can't allow you to make fun of my daughter. I clenched my fist and tried to talk back. Just then, my daughter appeared. Mom, are you almost done with your checkup? Jane, have you finished your errands yet? Yeah, I went to the bookstore and found it right away. Oh, who is this guy? This man is my ex-husband. My ex-husband is grinning and looking at my daughter. Oh, this is the guy. He really looks like he has a bad character. My daughter said so and looked at my ex-husband with cold eyes. My ex-husband suddenly heard such a thing, and his face turned red and he got angry.
You're a cocky little brat. I can tell you haven't had a proper education. You didn't even go to high school anyway. You're probably just jobless.
My ex-husband said with a raised voice. Mom, what is he talking about? My daughter was completely unfazed when my husband yelled at her. I go to XX high school, and I already have a recommendation at an Ivy League college. My ex-husband was momentarily upset by my daughter's statement.
XX high school? That's an ultra preparatory school, isn't it?
But he immediately made a mocking face at us.
You think you can fool me with a lie like that? Why don't you tell a more decent lie?
I'm not lying. I even have my student ID card. She showed my ex-husband her own student ID. It says XX High School on it.
No way!
My ex-husband was shocked to learn that my daughter was very bright. In the middle of all this, my daughter asked my ex-husband, I heard you talking, but your son is a senior in high school and the same age as me, right?
Yes, but so what?
My ex-husband replied with a look of frustration on his face. That's funny, because I was born at the end of August. I heard that you left my mother when she became pregnant with me. Then you remarried right after that. And even if you had a child right away, no matter how you calculate the timing, your son would be one grade below me.
So what do you want to say? You're really stupid after all. I have no idea what you're trying to say. I think that student ID is also fake.
My ex-husband cursed my daughter without hearing her out. But my daughter just laughed and said, You're the stupid one, she retorted.
What the hell? You are insulting an adult?
My ex-husband raised his voice, to which the daughter replied, "What I'm trying to say is that you were having relations with your current wife before you left my mother." My ex-husband got upset by that statement.
What are you talking about? I married my wife and had kids with her after we properly separated. If you make any funny accusations, I will sue you for defamation of character.
Suit yourself. If you don't understand what I just explained to you, then that's enough.
What the hell does that mean?
My ex-husband asked me, looking mortified. I immediately understand what Jane was saying, so I explained it to him again. Even if your current wife got pregnant after you left me and had a child, your son would never be in the same grade as my daughter. That would prove that you had a relationship with your current wife before you left me. After explaining it to him like that, my ex-husband finally seemed to understand. I had no idea you were having an affair. That really sucks. But my ex-husband quickly talked back.
So what's the point? We have been divorced for 18 years. It's probably a statute of limitations by now.
My daughter retorted to my ex-husband, "I'm sorry, but it's not the statute of limitations yet. My mother had no idea about the affair, and in that case, she can file for alimony for 20 years after the divorce."
What is that bullshit?
It's not bullshit.
How could your little high school girl know that?
I'm planning to become a lawyer in the future. So I'm studying for the bar exam now, since I got a recommendation to get into the university.
Oh no!
Then I'm going to charge you and your wife alimony.
Wait, even if you do that, I can't afford it.
I don't care.
Even now, I'm still going to the hospital and paying for the treatment.
My ex-husband had a bag of pills in his hand. "Oh, those are diabetes pills, aren't they? You must be leading a very unhealthy life," I said, and he hid the pills behind his back. "Anyway, I will never forgive you for insulting my daughter as well as me. I will send a content certified letter to your workplace or even your house and demand alimony."
Oh no!
"Jane, let's leave someone like this behind." "Yep." My daughter and I left the scene with my ex-husband, crumpled to his knees. I then sent a content certified letter to my ex-husband's workplace as I had declared. As a result, it became known within the company that my ex-husband's current wife was an adulteress and that he dumped his former wife, me, the moment I became pregnant. My ex-husband is now being looked at coldly by the people in the company, and he's feeling lost at his workplace. And I also found out about his home and sent a content certified letter to his current wife, which led to an interesting thing happening. His current wife asked him what she should do because she got a content certified letter. My ex-husband thought it was me who sent it, but as they talked, he found out that she was talking about the wife of her adulterer because she was currently having an affair with a married man. This, they said, had brought the relationship between my ex-husband and his wife to a crushing halt, and the family was in a bad state. However, my ex-husband is owed alimony by me, and his wife is owed alimony by me as well as the wife of the other man, with whom she is currently having an affair. So they are not divorced, and are working together to pay off their debts. Furthermore, a mutual friend told me that their child had been expelled from school right after entering high school for getting in trouble, and now he is jobless and just staying at home. I was so disgusted that it was my ex-husband who was the one lying and trying to look good. On the other hand, I'm spending happy days with my daughter, traveling, and getting along well with her. I worked pretty hard when I was young and have enough savings to have no trouble in my old age, so I think I will take early retirement when my daughter goes to college. Her ex-husband was an amazing scumbag. I think Jennifer was right to leave such a lousy man. And I was surprised that Jennifer's daughter is very talented. She's going to be a great lawyer in the future, isn't she? At any rate, I'm so happy that Jennifer is happy now and her ex-husband fell.
My daughter's mysterious power reveals the shocking truth at my sister's wedding, and my daughter pointed to a person as,
It's the doggy! My daughter pointed and exclaimed, referring to my sister, the bride. Hey, Olive, stop it! The people gathered at the wedding venue smiled wearily, thinking it was just a mischievous act of a small child, and not particularly bothered. I hurriedly picked up my daughter and stopped her. Olive, that's not nice to say. Huh? But yesterday, Auntie Erica was. Today's my sister's big day. My sister Erica and I have never been close, but I wanted her to have a pleasant start to her new life, since she had kindly invited us to her wedding. My conscience was shattered by my daughter's innocent words. Let's go back in time for a moment. I'm Megan, a 32 years old full-time housewife living in a rented apartment with my husband, Joe, and our daughter, Olive. I married Joe 5 years ago and quickly became pregnant, giving birth to Olive. Joe dotes on our daughter. Many fathers may think that their job is just to work and bring in money, but Joe is different. He took paternity leave, which was still uncommon at the time when Olive was born, and took care of her and me full-time. He even changed her diapers, prepared milk and baby food, and dealt with her crying and tantrum almost flawlessly. Even now that Olive has grown up, Joe can take care of her without any problems, even when I'm not around. Every time I see Joe spending time with her daughter, I deeply realize how lucky I am to have married him. One day, Joe came home from work with a big smile on his face. Did something good happen? I asked, and Joe replied, Actually, I'm going to be promoted soon, and I'm going to be able to participate in a project I've wanted to join for a long time. Whoa, that's amazing! You've been working so hard lately. Congratulations! Joe's news made our daughter happy too, and we celebrated together. Daddy, that's amazing! My daughter clapped her hands happily. I can do my best because I have you too. Thank you, girls. I love you. Joe gently stroked our daughter's head and said that. I thought our marriage was like a picture perfect and smooth sailing. However, there was one thing that worried me about our life. It was Joe's personality. Joe was kind to everyone, not just his family, which was a good thing, but on the other hand, it also meant that he was a people pleaser. Moreover, he was easily persuaded. Shortly after our marriage, his personality became a problem. When a minor issue with his college friend, who was a girl, turned into a hassle. Joe was helping her with her problem, and she suddenly showed up at the house. Joe had told her to come to him any time she needed help, and she had taken him at his word. I was also at home at the time, so I asked her to leave immediately. If I hadn't been there, Joe might have let her stay, and who knows, she might have even tried to seduce him. After she left, I talked to him about the issue, but he didn't seem to understand what was wrong. That's why I sometimes worry that something similar might happen again. I'm worried because I love Joe. One day, after dropping my daughter off at kindergarten, I was cleaning the living room when my phone rang. It was a text from my sister Erica, whom I hadn't spoken to for a few years. I was surprised and let out a gasp. It seemed like an emergency, because why else would she text me out of the blue? I quickly opened it, and it turned out to be an apology. My sister's always been beautiful, but she has been mean to me since we were children. For example, she used to give me her homework and household chores to do, and take away the games I had bought. When I was in high school, she even stole my first boyfriend. That's why I only kept in touch with her when it was absolutely necessary. The last time I invited her was to my wedding. I'm sorry for everything, and I want to apologize to you in person. I couldn't help but wonder why she would suddenly send me a text like that. To be honest, I thought it was a little too late for her to apologize. On the other hand, I also thought that we were both adults now, and we could have a normal relationship even if we weren't close. After thinking about it for a while, I finally decided to reply and suggest we meet at my place on Sunday. On the day we met, I saw my sister for the first time in years, and she hadn't changed a bit. She was as beautiful as I remembered she was.
Megan, it's been a while. Thank you for inviting me today. Here, it's for you.
She handed me a cake box with a smile on her face, and I led her to the sofa in the living room. I made coffee and returned to her.
Thank you.
Where are Olive and Joe? She looked around nervously while I answered her. They went to the park. They'll probably be back soon. She took a sip of her coffee and suddenly bowed her head.
I'm sorry for being mean all this time. I was really bad. I'm really sorry. I know it may be too late, but I thought if I didn't apologize now, I might regret it for the rest of my life.
Erika, please, lift your head up. She lifted her head hesitantly. It's okay. It's in the past, right? Let's forget it and keep in touch from now. My words seemed to make her relieved. And at that moment, my daughter and Joe returned from the park. Hey, I'm home. Oh, Erika. It's been a while since the wedding. Please, take your time. I had explained the situation to Joe when my sister contacted me that day. I only told my daughter that her aunt was coming to play.
Hello, Auntie Erika. Hey, let's play house together.
Despite being their first meeting, my daughter seemed to have taken a liking to my sister and invited her to play. My sister accepted it gladly, and the two of them started to play pretend. I was worried if my daughter would be shy around strangers, but there was no problem at all. We all had a good time eating the cake my sister brought and spending time together. I thought we should have made up earlier, and it was already time without noticing it.
Mommy, I'm getting sleepy.
My daughter, who had been playing energetically until then, rubbed her eyes and said so. She had played a lot in the park, so it was natural for her to be tired. Should we take a nap, Olive? Megan, I'll put her to sleep. Although Joe usually put my daughter to bed, sometimes she would come to me and ask for my help.
I want Mommy today. Mommy, please.
Oh, that's rare. Yeah, sure. Megan, would you?
I nodded and left my sister and Joe in the living room and took my daughter's hand, heading to the bedroom. In a few minutes, my daughter fell asleep. She must have been tired from playing too much. I looked at her sleeping face for a few minutes even after she fell asleep, then quietly left the bedroom so as not to wake her up.
Oh, hey, Megan. I'm going to head home now.
Oh, really? Why don't you stay for dinner?
Well, actually, I have something to do after this. Sorry. We can hang out again soon.
And with that, Erika left her place. It was good to know that I could build a good relationship with my sister from now on. A week had passed since she came over to my house when I received a call from a friend back home who I regularly keep in touch with. She invited me on a trip as my birthday was coming up. Since giving birth to my daughter, I had taken a few family trips, but I have never been on a trip with my friends. I was hesitant to ask him, especially since he was tired from work. After much deliberation, I talked to my husband about it.
A trip? That sounds great. You should go.
I'll take care of Olive, so don't worry. Really? But it's a pretty far destination, and we'll be staying over for 3 nights. Won't you have trouble taking time off from work? When I asked him this, Joe shook his head.
No. I can take some paid time off. In fact, I was just being pushed to take some off from work. So, don't worry about it. Go ahead and enjoy the trip.
His words put me at ease. And a month later, I went on a 3-night trip with my friends. This trip was a lot of fun, of course. I felt like I had gone back to my single days. And I had a blast with food, sightseeing, and everything else. When I returned home, Joe and our daughter welcomed me back warmly. They had enjoyed themselves while I was away, going out to eat and to the mall. It seemed like there was nothing for me to worry about, and I was relieved. And I was unpacking my bag from the trip. My sister called me on the phone. Although we hadn't met in person since she came over to my house a while ago, we occasionally exchanged text. Hi, Erica. What's up?
Sorry to call you at this time, but I have something I want to tell you right away.
Her voice sounded full of joy, so it didn't seem like bad news.
Actually, I'm getting married to the person I was dating. We'll have a wedding in 3 months, so I really want you guys to come.
What? Congratulations! We'll definitely go.
Thank you. I'll let you know the details when we have them. Well, that's all for now.
And with that, Erica hung up the phone. She must have been really happy about the proposal. I immediately told Joe and our daughter that my sister was getting married. They both rejoiced, as if it were their own news. I didn't think my young daughter would fully understand, but she seemed happy, so I was content. For a while after that, Joe's work suddenly became busy. He started working overtime and even working on weekends, which was unusual for him. He had said he was promoted and would be participating in a new project, so it couldn't be helped. Despite that, Joe was still taking good care of Olive. When I expressed a concern that he might be overburdened, he smiled kindly and said,
It's okay. Just being with Olive makes me forget my fatigue.
Is there a better husband and father out there than him? At that time, I really thought I was lucky to have married Joe. However, one day, our daughter looked unusually gloomy. When I asked her what was wrong, she gave me an unexpected answer.
I want to play with Daddy. Daddy never plays with me anymore.
It was true that he spent time with her less often than before, but he should still be playing with her while I was out. It would be difficult for a daughter, who was almost 5 years old, to understand the situation and circumstances. Daddy is working hard for Mommy and Olive, so even if he can't play with you a lot, you shouldn't be selfish. When Mommy isn't here, you play house with Daddy, don't you? When I said that to her daughter, she made a strange face and seemed like she wanted to say something.
Never mind then.
She said so, put a nearby blanket over her head, and went to sleep. The day of my sister's wedding finally arrived. My daughter was wearing a beautiful dress and was very excited. Well, I hoped she would stay quiet during the wedding ceremony. Our relatives and the groom's relatives, as well as our friends and colleagues, had gathered in the chapel. A little after the scheduled start time, the groom finally appeared. He was a handsome man who worked for a famous company. Then, finally, the bride, my sister, appeared. She took a step forward, escorted by our father, who seemed like he was about to cry. That was when my daughter pointed her finger and burst out laughing, saying,
It's the doggy.
When she saw my sister's face,
Yesterday, when Mommy was out, Auntie Erica came to our house. Daddy kept playing doggy with her and didn't play with me.
"What? Olive? What are you saying?"
It's supposed to be a secret, but Daddy has been playing only with her. I'm mad.
I felt the blood draining from my body. Doggy play? What does that mean? Could it be that Joe was having an affair with my sister at home? I couldn't believe it. I thought he was a good husband and father, but he had been betraying me all along. I glared at my sister. She briefly looked surprised, but pretended not to hear. She even tried to continue with the wedding ceremony. However, at that moment, one of the attendees who had heard my daughter's story spoke up loudly. "Me too. I and my friends have had our boyfriends taken away by that woman before." She was probably one of my sister's friends. Then the small commotion quickly spread throughout the venue. My sister could no longer bear it and threw off her veil, slamming it on the floor.
What are you talking about? That's obviously a lie. Who would have an affair with such an ugly and lame husband of yours?
I was angry at her words and couldn't help but retort. "You've always been mean to me. I get it now. People never change. You only came to apologize to me to take Joe away. But I'm not going to be fooled again. I'll investigate thoroughly and take action."
Shut up!
"Don't mess with me, Megan." My sister screamed with a bright red face, and I could hear scornful voices directed towards her from those around us. The venue staff tried to calm the situation, but it was already too late. Finally, my sister lifted up the hem of her long wedding dress and ran away. A few days later, as promised, I was able to gather evidence of my husband's affair and successfully filed for divorce. Of course, I also claimed damages from both Erica and Joe, and I received a lump sum payment from Joe for child support. My sister was also pursued for payment of damages due to the cancellation of the wedding ceremony. She had a decent career, but the incident caused her to lose her job. Now, she barely gets by working as a day laborer, and her once gorgeous looks have faded. As for my ex-husband, news of the affair leaked from somewhere and became a topic of discussion at his workplace. He was demoted and removed from the project he was working on. It's only a matter of time before he becomes unemployed. Neither my husband nor my sister noticed that our daughter had witnessed their infidelity that day. However, they had instructed her to keep their meetings a secret by saying, "It's a secret between Daddy and Olive, and we must keep it. Okay?" I cannot forgive my ex-husband and sister, and I have no sympathy for their current miserable situation. After the divorce, my daughter and I moved back to my parents' house. My parents were furious with my sister and declared a disinheritance on the day of the cancelled wedding ceremony. I feel sorry for depriving my daughter of her father, but I believe it was the right decision to cut ties with such traitors. I must work hard to provide for my daughter and ensure she never experiences any hardships. With that in mind, I found a new job immediately and plan to build a new life with my daughter in a new environment.
Husband suddenly became kind. Suspicious behavior continued, so I set up a camera. Shocking footage recorded.
Welcome back. You must be tired. I have dinner ready for you.
As I moved toward the dining table, I saw that my favorite dishes were arranged on it.
You like this one, right? Come on, let's eat.
Hearing this, you probably think he is a good husband. But in reality, until yesterday, He had not done any household chores and treated me like a maid, scolding me all the time. What's this?
Oh, it's nothing. It's just a thank you for always taking care of me. Come on, hurry up and let's eat.
He said with a smile, urging me on. He didn't know that I already knew the real reason he was being so kind to me. My name is Carol, and I'm 35 years old. We have been married for 3 years, and this is the 10th year after my husband and I graduated from university. We met again at the reunion, and a month later, we got married. I was in a rush to get married, partly because of my age, and I accepted his early proposal without much thought. I knew it was moving fast, but honestly, I couldn't help it. I fell for him when I saw him at the reunion. He had become a handsome man, and he was considerate toward others. He seemed to shine the most among the members of the reunion. We started dating, and 1 month into our relationship, he said,
I know it's early, but let's get married.
I was honestly surprised and worried. But what gave me the push I needed was when he said,
It's okay if you work too.
My husband's name is James, and he's turning 36 because he repeated a year in college. Since we both worked, he took out the garbage and did laundry on weekends. He always willingly helped with the household chores, which made me happy. But that husband is no longer here now. Our relationship became awkward when his job switched to working from home. James himself doesn't seem to be happy about working from home and always expressed dissatisfaction with the company. As a proud husband, he didn't like seeing me leaving the house for work. In the first place, there were times when he looked down on me and saw himself as superior. He was a year older than me and worked for a top-tier company, which naturally led him to have such an attitude. Yet, James himself couldn't have felt good about me going to work while he was working from home. One day, when I returned home, I called out, I'm home. But there was no answer from James. Moreover, the kitchen and living room were a mess. What the heck? I shouted in my heart as I somehow managed to clean up the mess. I wanted to clean more, but I didn't have the energy left. I was exhausted just from tidying up. After that, I cooked and finally put the food on the table.
If dinner's ready, let me know sooner. Well, it's not like I'm expecting much from your cooking though,
James said as he emerged from his room wearing the same clothes he wore to bed. I was just about to let you know, I said in a hurry as I called out to James.
Stop making excuses and take care of the house like you're supposed to. You didn't leave me any food in the fridge today. Just because you work outside doesn't mean you can slacking off, you know?
What? But you said you were going to eat out today.
I changed my mind. Work kept me busy.
How am I supposed to know that?
I think it's a wife's job to prepare everything, so that it's okay no matter what happens. Since I, as a husband, am at home, I need to do the household chores like you're supposed to.
I'm already doing them. You haven't been helping lately.
What are you talking about? Just because I'm working from home doesn't mean I'm not busy.
James continued to find fault with me. By the time he had been working from home for 6 months, he didn't even get up for breakfast anymore. As I was leaving for work, he would say,
Have a great day, ma'am.
And then he would make sarcastic comments as he went to the bathroom. When I returned home, he greeted me with,
Welcome home, ma'am,
in a sarcastic tone. It was then that things got really bad. His mood would suddenly change, and he would say things like,
I couldn't work today because of you. You didn't wash my mug from yesterday. If you had washed it, my documents wouldn't have gotten dirty from the coffee.
Well, you could have washed it yourself.
You're neglecting your household duties.
I'm trying my best while I work.
Yeah, whatever. Just continue to believe you're trying. You're just a low-class woman.
I was boiling with anger at his verbal abuse that night. From then on, our conversations became minimal and awkward. However, one day, when I returned home, I was surprised to find that the living room was spotless, unlike before. I couldn't believe my ears after what happened next.
Welcome back. You must be tired. I have dinner ready for you.
As I moved toward the dining table, I saw that my favorite dishes were arranged on it. What is all this?
You like it, right? Come on, let's eat.
This tastes just the way I like. How did you know?
Oh, remember when we talked about different flavors? When you cooked for me before we got married?
In the seasoning rack in the kitchen, there were also seasonings that I used to prefer before we got married, and I felt a momentary discomfort in my husband's voice, but I thought it might be because he was just shy. When he cooked curry rice, I was surprised that my husband, who preferred pork, used beef, and even bay leaves to get rid of the odor. The cleaning was also more thorough, and the house was so clean that it was unrecognizable. Was he always capable? I thought to myself and felt uneasy. Things continued like this for a month, so I told him I would cook that night and left for work. When I returned, I cooked us dinner. I decided to tell him my feelings while having dinner. Thank you for always helping me. Where did you learn to cook and clean like that? I asked him while expressing gratitude.
It's great that you can learn from online videos when you search for it.
Even cooking?
Yeah, that's right. I do it while watching.
While watching, huh? You're skillful.
Well, there's nothing I can't do.
My husband said. But as far as I know, that dish is exquisite. Just watching YouTube, huh? I was feeling a sense of distrust. Even so, I felt relieved to have a kind husband and started talking to him. Hey, do you want to start thinking about having children soon?
Oh, I'm feeling a bit sick today. Is it okay if we don't try tonight?
My husband froze at my words and changed the subject. I wanted to continue talking about our fertility journey, but with work getting busier, we never got the chance. One day, my junior colleague Paige invited me to lunch. She's 2 years younger than me and has a straightforward personality. She's capable at her job, so everyone relies on her, including me. While having lunch, I talked about my husband's recent behavior. Paige immediately responded, "That's strange. They say there's always a reason behind someone's actions." What do you mean? When a husband or boyfriend suddenly becomes more affectionate or attentive, it's often to hide an affair. But he works from home, so there's no chance for him to meet someone. No, it's the other way around. You're not home, so you should be careful. Her words made me remember my husband's cooking, and I must have looked concerned because she said, "If you're worried, you should use a hidden camera." I said, "I don't think it's necessary," but she was proactive. I wondered why she was going to such length, but I appreciated her concern. Paige efficiently talked to the salesperson at an electronics store and purchased a camera that even I could handle. She then helped me set up the camera in my husband's room, living room, kitchen, and even the bedroom, timed for when my husband would go shopping. The hidden camera was shared with my PC and smartphone so that I could see in real time. The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about my husband and the hidden camera. So, unable to wait, I nervously opened my smartphone during lunch break. My heart nearly stopped when I saw the person who appeared on the screen. What? Paige? Why is she in the footage? I quickly closed the screen, but my hands were shaking and my heart was racing. I couldn't focus on work in the afternoon, so I waited for the end of the workday and went to the nearby cafe to calm down with some coffee before playing back the hidden camera footage. James prepared his computer and was skilled in his work during the start of the web conference. However, when the meeting ended and the conference screen closed, he reached for his smartphone and began doing something on it. Then, he moved to the living room, and shortly after, the doorbell rang. He seems to have gone to the front door and disappeared from the living room. As soon as he reappeared, my body leaned forward to try to catch a glimpse of the woman next to him. It is Paige. I was shocked to the point where my heart almost jumped out of my chest. She had always listened to me talk about my husband and had been on my side, and she had even suggested the hidden camera. I was in a state of panic beyond words. Furthermore, I saw an unbelievable scene of the two of them captured on the hidden camera in the bedroom. I think I was beyond panic and in the state of shock.
Are you okay, ma'am?
The voice of the waiter brought me back to my senses. I switched my phone to call Paige and dialed her number. Before I questioned my husband, I wanted to hear Paige's story. You finally watched it. I'm glad, Paige said as she asked the waiter to use the private room. As soon as we entered, I asked her, What's going on, Paige? Did you intentionally set this up? There is a reason for this. Anyway, please take this video to the law firm. I don't understand. Can you explain it to me? Then she told me about her and my husband's history. From the beginning of her story, my head began to spin. Before my husband and I started dating, she was dating him. She turned pale when she found out that the groom of the wedding I invited her to, James, was the man she was dating. Although she cut off contact with him after our wedding and ignored him, my husband apparently contacted her and said,
I will break up with that woman soon, so wait for me.
She was curious about his true intentions, so she went to ask him. Since then, he had been telling her about his complaints about me during meals ever since. I had already decided that I wouldn't have a relationship beyond meals, but his bad-mouthing and attitude toward you were too much, so I came up with a plan for this hidden camera. But if that's the case, you become his affair partner. Yes, I'm aware of that. She apologized to me and continued the story. She had planned our divorce at the risk of being claimed for compensation. She deliberately approached my husband, went in and out of our house, and did unnatural cleaning and tidying up while preparing homemade dishes to make me suspect him of having an affair. She thought that the scene would be advantageous evidence in the divorce negotiations and came up with the idea of the hidden camera. Why did you go that far? You're also a victim of my husband, I said, emphasizing my tone. Tears welled up in her eyes as she said, Please watch the kitchen video, Carol. I learned more shocking facts from the kitchen video and her story. In the video, my husband was adding something to the food every time after Paige left. According to Paige, James apparently said to her,
My wife is infertile, so eventually I will divorce her because of it.
Furthermore, he let slip in high spirits.
I'm researching herbs to make her infertile.
Paige apologized, saying, I was asked to do it, but I was the one making the herb and spicy food. You're not to blame. It's the terrible husband who's at fault. I'm sorry. Please go to the lawyer's office right away. You're also a victim. It must have been tough for you too. I won't let this evidence you let me have by sacrificing yourself go to waste. Before we knew it, we were holding hands and crying. We put the smartphone with the video in the bag and left the shop. Although I returned home later than usual, James started preparing dinner with kind words. I'm sorry, I don't have much of an appetite today, so I'm going to have something light.
Wouldn't you eat just this?
He offered a small dish with pepper in it. But no matter how much he tried to make me eat it, I didn't feel like eating after just hearing about what he does to the food. James looked troubled, but went to clean up, and I didn't bother to tell him about the video. When he fell asleep, I packed my bags and checked that the video and other evidence were put away in them. The stuff he put in the food was captured in the video, so I also grabbed that and put it in my bag for evidence. The next morning at breakfast, I said, "I'm going on a business trip from today, so I won't be able to come back for a while."
How long will you be gone?
Until the result come out, I guess.
Is it that tough of a job?
I don't know what will happen, so I will contact you when the result come out. I then told him that I was leaving and went straight to the lawyer's office. After watching the video I presented, the lawyer explained confidently,
This video is sufficient evidence. The divorce will progress in your favor.
The divorce was finalized early, as the lawyer predicted. The matter of James trying to make me infertile was treated as an intentional act, so the lawyer contacted the police, and James was arrested. The result came out, so I'm letting you know.
What's going on?
I heard from Paige that you are plotting against me.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Please help me.
What are you talking about? You will pay for your actions. I went to visit him at the prison.
Won't you consider a settlement?
James just clutched to the board in the middle, crying. What? Settlement? You must serve your sentence. Neither Paige nor I will forgive you. You are such a despicable loser. My anger exploded, and I couldn't help but scream the words that my husband once said to me. Later on, Paige admitted to having an affair with my husband and offered to pay me compensation. However, she was also the reason why things ended the way they did. I consulted with the lawyer, and she agreed to pay half the compensation amount after I deducted the gratitude for her. My ex-husband lost his job while serving his sentence, and after his release, he struggled to find work. Paying the compensation was a huge financial burden, and it was his own doing. I was worried about infertility, but fortunately, I was not infertile, and the herb had not affected me. I was curious about Paige, so I contacted her after receiving the results. You were worried about me, but don't worry, I'm not infertile. That's great. I'm really relieved. Let's continue to be conversation partners. Thank you. Yes, if you don't mind. Let's learn to choose men more wisely from now on. Yes, let's do that. We both laughed and hung up. I remember the beginning of our relationship and chuckled to myself. At the time, he looked good, and he was good at treating women. I fell for it, and I let him lead me on. But now, I have to look for sincere men, I said to myself, feeling a sense of realization. I sat on the front steps of my house and chanted, "Don't rush, don't rush, don't rush." I'm here now, having learned that being with someone can change your life.